I can study Italian and I've prepped my classes for university. And now I'm going to work on my options course. And then we're going to do some philosophy and we're going to record the podcast.
I get to look at a lot of things, and the very, very few things that I'm willing to go deep on, somewhat arbitrarily maybe and loosely, but hand-picked from like a big pool.
From the portfolio management standpoint, they were not mistakes. You know, monkey's paws and tail was pinned.
I think we're going to chat today about some of the fastest growing companies in 2026. And I wonder how many of these are actually on the radar of our Korean friends. For an advertising-free version of this show, check out wallstreetwildlife.com. 오소리 루크 할라드, 원숭이 크리스토프의 딥 인베스팅 정글. This week on the show, how safe is it for international investors to invest in the US given recent political chaos? Which are the fastest growing companies of the past year? Plus, investing in nuclear power. I'm revisiting NuScale Power, ticker SMR, and I'm also revealing a nuclear stock I just bought last week. Christoph, how you doing, buddy?
I'm never better. Badge, good morning.
Good morning.
We're recording bright and early, a little earlier than usual. I still see the sun rising behind you.
Yes, sir.
This year, I wanted to, for this episode, bring in some talk about resolutions and what is it that we think we're going to do better than we did last year, and how are we faring in the first 18 days of said resolutions. So looking forward to checking up on you.
But let me tell you why. If you weren't losing your mind, we did open the show in Korean, if you didn't pick up that language. Do you want to tell me, should we tell guys why we opened the show in Korean this week?
Yes. Yes, we should.
I got a Twitter post. Every month I post my portfolio and all my trades of the last month, and they usually do pretty well. Well, my one from a few days ago got picked up by Kim Seabang Investing, who looks like he's a pretty prolific Korean investor who's well connected in the investing world in South Korea. And we've now picked up a couple of hundred Korean investors following us. So if there's enough demand for it, we've been playing with 11 labs. We might be down to publish a Korean language version of the podcast using 11 labs for our dubbing. What do you think about that idea?
Badge, this is a dream come true for Monkey. I've always wanted to be big in Korea.
Hey.
Total shift in doing my annual review of best media or best shows. Critics apparently absolutely loved this show called K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yeah, it was like one of the number one shows of last year. I got a whole bunch of friends' kids who are addicted to it.
Yeah, so you dig it?
I've seen an episode with like a friend's kid, yeah.
So I have it all queued up to watch, and it's the sensation and So anyway, it's time for us to make more bridges with our Korean friends. I've always wanted to visit. I've had a lot of deep, close friends in my life who were Korean. I always thought it's like, it's what are we waiting for? This year, Vegas. Next year, let's go
to Seoul. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right.
So I did a bit of research. I had no idea there is actually quite a big retail investment crowd in Korea. And they affectionately, I hope this isn't insulting, this is literally what Gemini told me chatting yesterday.
Uh-oh.
They collectively call themselves ants, gamey. And like they call themselves ants because like they are small individually, but terrifying collectively and incredibly hardworking. And it's almost like there's 5 or 6 million highly engaged, active individual investors in South Korea who are actually invested in a lot of the same companies you and I are, like really interested in big tech. These guys and girls are digitally native, hyper-connected. And they can, as a group, they can move the prices of even like mid-cap US companies. So this is actually a really interesting community for us to start to have a conversation in. So guys and girls in South Korea, if you're watching the show, hello, and we look forward to talking to you in the future.
Absolutely. This is so obvious. the digitally native part, especially, I mean, I've never been, so I only know based on representations, but I hope this isn't a stereotype, but I understand, especially young Koreans, as very tech savvy, obviously, but also just deeply connected and caring about their digital worlds. And so investing in 2026 seemed, especially if you think about it like a very complex chess game, of course it would make sense to people with, fast technology and access to all the information. What was the Korean company that the Korean company that's sort of like a mini Amazon, Coupang? Is it
Coupang, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so we looked into their e-commerce stuff some time back. I think you should look into that company actually. I haven't studied it in some time. But anyhow, I suppose maybe it's the idea that multiple different kinds of communities have their own very different frameworks. But when you overlap some of them, the US, we have Europe, there's our Aussie friends. If you add the Korean community, then from multiple angles, we probably triangulate a little closer to some good insight.
Yeah, definitely open to other interesting Korean investment ideas, because I do want to get like a bit more geographically diversified. I'm still incredibly US centric in my portfolio.
This is also maybe silly, but because I'm a Zen student and I've seen Japanese characters all the time, and I always have envy of that particular form of language and the way it looks visually. One day, Badge, I want to see Team Monkey written in Korean.
Yet again, buddy, you can make your own merch, and you can make it in any language
I
you
don't
like.
want to make my own merch. I want our fame to carry us, so that all of a sudden there's Team Badger and Team Monkey in Korean. That's how we know we've made it, when you didn't have to make it yourself. And one day, let it be aspirational.
Well, I think we're going to chat today about some of the fastest growing companies in 2026. And I wonder how many of these are actually on the radar of our Korean friends, because there's some international names here.
Badge, you and I had a little chat about, well, where exactly are these numbers from? I checked it against the AAI. I think there's some discrepancies here, but loosely, approximately, I would assume that these are the growth rates based on last year's revenue changes. And we also talked about, like, okay, what do we do with this thing? And I think that's...
Just if you're not on the YouTube, let's explain what we're looking at a little bit. So you've got like a top, I don't know, by eye, like 30 or so companies ranked by last 12 months revenue growth. So very top of the list actually is one of yours, Nebius, ticker NBIS, with 441% revenue growth. So that's, I mean, maybe from a small base, but that's still pretty substantial, like almost 5xing your revenue.
Yeah, and the other thing you see is the basic metrics: market cap, price per sales, price per earnings, how much the company has gained, and then the relative metrics of price moving averages and some technical stuff. Note, I did sell Nebius in the King of the Jungle portfolio because my conviction in iron is much higher. So took my big gains and sold it.
And I see iron there on the list, probably position 8 or 9 with 122% revenue growth.
Yeah, not bad. So I think the meta approach to this graphic will be most useful for our listeners. The first thing meaning like, how might we use something like this? Because any beginner, I think, would make maybe an obvious mistake, which is to say, well, you should invest in the ones that are growing fastest. And obviously that's just too simple, because you need to contextualize everything.
It's not bad though. I get like that as one thing to look at. That is a useful thing to look at. Like, I think McKinsey or someone famously did a study, I don't know, like decades ago, looking for what were the metrics that drove like successful companies. And I think overwhelmingly the most important thing was revenue growth.
Maybe step one is to get myself acquainted, at least in passing, with each of these companies, because that will end up serving me well over 2026 in the following way. Let me spell this out a little bit. With information overload, it's easy to come across a ticker and you either say to yourself, okay, I don't know that one, therefore I don't care. To have that kind of, you just protect yourself from too much. But the moment you say take, 5-10 minutes to at least just learn what ticker X does, then the next time you see it, it's not so easy to dismiss. So you're basically learning a language, right? You just expand your vocabulary a little bit. And so what I would probably do next with this image is feed it into an AI machine and ask it to give me, paragraph or two, very high level summaries of what each company does. And then I would take 2 hours of my time and I would learn all of these. Now, some of these I know. I'd say I know 65% of them. But then all of a sudden I've learned 35% new basics. And over time, and obviously we're looking at companies that are doing very well, meaning growing very quickly. So some of these literally might be the best performer in 2026, like staring you in the face. We don't know. But that first step in literacy, being like, oh, cool. And to use an example, I'm looking at this chart here. I see something called Cadeler, CDLR, growing at 70%. Market cap of 1.6 billion, sweet spot for Monkey, PS of only 2.6, and lost 16% last year. So there's something funky going on with this company. What is it? What's it do? I'll take the 5 minutes, I'll learn, maybe I see it again somehow, I revisit. And build the repertoire a little at a time, and before you know it, what might you do next, Badge, with this data?
Like I barely recognize any names on here, if I'm honest. Like the one or two, like I own 2 or 3 of these, but they're right at the bottom: NVIDIA, Palantir, Rocket Lab, and IREN. I recognize 1 or 2 tickers, but I couldn't tell you what they do. But the large majority, I've never heard of these before. So yeah, like your exercise sounds valuable.
I have an assignment for you.
Go.
Because it's actually one that I've come across before. I just ran out of bandwidth and time. Number 3 on this is Firefly Aerospace.
Firefly Aerospace, yep.
Firefly Aerospace. This is a company that's actually located just outside of Austin, and it's being touted as a Rocket Lab, like a cousin of Rocket Lab. Now, here's the thing. I really don't know Rocket Lab nearly as well as you do. And so, when I read their slide deck, it's all shiny and good, but relatively speaking, you're the expert here. I would love for you, for example, this is teamwork, right? Since you have the much deeper base of understanding, why not put Firefly Aerospace on your, to investigate tab, and then come back on another Wall Street Wildlife episode and say, hey, is this little upcomer? Does it have a shot? Is it, why would you invest in it versus Rocket Lab? Who knows?
Let me tell you my process, because it's incredibly quick, right? I could get through this list in an hour, I reckon, because I literally, like, I can read a 1-line description of a company and 99% of the time I'm going to go, nah, not interested. Like, it's very rare that something makes me go, oh, actually, that sort of makes sense. That is something the world wants more of. I can't see any like immediate barriers. Like, it's straightforward enough that I'm willing to do more than literally like 30 seconds of thinking time. Most companies don't get more than 30 seconds out of me. So I could get through this whole list and do that same thing.
Okay.
I'm not saying that's a good process. Like,
yeah.
If that's a process, it's certainly freaking efficient. And the consequence is, the upside is, like, I get to look at a lot of things, and the very, very few things that I'm willing to go deep on, like they're sort of in some ways like somewhat arbitrarily maybe and loosely, but handpicked from like a big pool. But what it does mean, like the consequence is I end up passing on a ton of really great opportunities because I just dismiss them out of hand. But like that's a process I like. That's the process I follow.
You know, since investing is personal, in some phase of life, I think a process like yours is really smart. You protect yourself from too much. You know what you're good at. You don't let the weeds in. You just don't bring garbage in. Fewer decisions to make, right? And in other phases of life, you want to go exploring. And you want to just maybe even, you know, learn about the world. So even from that perspective, you know, I want to know what these companies are doing. Why are they growing so fast? You know, what contribution are they making? And all of a sudden, I'm just having fun learning stuff. And some of these might really catch my eye. By the way, a lot of these, Badge, are data center type companies. Monkey has a lot of these. I know a lot of these because I've been in the data center space for 2 years now. Do any of these, do I want to say anything else? I love that Lemonade is on here. This is a new, very high conviction pick for Monkey. Also added to the King of the Jungle portfolio. Boy, do I love their future. So glad they're on this list. Also, MP Materials, by the way. I don't have it in King of the Jungle, but I've been selling puts on MP Materials in my real life portfolio. Our patrons who will take Monkey's options course will learn a lot more about selling puts. But MP Materials, for short, recently, as let me explain it, Badge, via concrete example, Apple gave them a huge contract, I think $500 million worth. And they provide access to rare materials that are needed for basically all kinds of manufacturing processes. And in the current geopolitical climate, with China and the US fighting one another to access rare materials without which you can't make all the downstream stuff, it's positioned really beautifully in major revenue and contracts and margin expansion and so forth. So to see that it's up 145% in revenue over the next year makes sense, and I think it's only going to go higher. So anyway, explore, see if any of these companies strike your fancy, and if you're one of our patrons, let us know in the Jungle Lounge what you discovered.
All right. Well, Christoph, let me, it's not on your list, but let me tell you about investing in nuclear power, because I feel like a bit of a sucker, but maybe I got a break. Do you remember way back in 2022, I recommended NuScale Power, ticker SMR, as my 7 investing recommendation? I was pretty proud of that one because I think I hadn't seen any other analysts, nobody on FinTwit talking about it. I think I was one of the first to sort of get to it. And I got to it like not long after they IPO'd. So I was pretty early to that. And then like essentially they're the only company with approval from the NRC, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. I gave up on them in July 2024 because they'd lost like their major customer, UAMPS in Utah. And it just looked like such a long journey to commercialization. Like I figured, I've just got into this too early. And I felt like a sucker because as you can see on the diagram on screen, I bought like around 2022. I held it through to about 2024. I kind of got my money back, and then the stock went parabolic, literally, like just after I sold it. And I could have been sitting on a 3x. Well, I've got a do-over because the stock has now come back down to it.
I need to interrupt you for a second to ask. Your commentary is, like an idiot. You sold in July 24, but you had a reason.
I did. Yes, I did.
What was your reason for selling?
They'd lost a major customer.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. And like commercialization, actually, like it's a pre-revenue company, essentially. Like they make tiny revenue, but it's not on their core thing. Like their core business model is to build these modular reactors and then operate them.
That doesn't sound like a bad reason to sell. I mean, honestly.
No, yeah, I agree.
Right?
But I mean, it's just before, that was just when the world was going, oh crap, like we need more energy. and like, nuclear power is like an interesting source of energy. Yeah. And so things went parabolic, but they've come back to earth, and they've come back to let's look at a quick update on kind of where the company is. And I've just done like a very light bit of refreshing. So in May last year, they got another approval from the NRC for their larger reactor design, 77 megawatt design. So that's good, like still moving forwards, getting approvals. And then they had a commercial breakthrough, which I've missed. So in September last year, just a few months ago, they've picked up a new agreement in Tennessee to deploy 6 gigawatts of SMR capacity. So that's significant. Still, it's just like it's like a paper contract. They have to execute on it. It'd still be a long way to get to generating money for that, but they now have a customer back on the table, which was my main concern. And interestingly, the reason the stock has kind of come back to earth, and I've almost got like a do-over on my sale when I sold to kind of almost, buying just a little bit higher a year later. So they have a large, like a partnership with a company called Fluor, F-L-U-O-R, Fluor Corp. And Fluor had like a big holding in NuScale. Well, evidently NuScale's like volatility, like Fluor is like this big industrial, like, boring, just kind of getting it done company, and that's in that space. But their own share price has been swinging around in an uncomfortable manner because of the volatility of their holding in SMR. So they've sold a chunk of their SMR stock, and they've announced that they're going to sell the rest of their SMR stock by middle of 2026. So you've got like a big overhang. Essentially, like the market knows a ton of shares, like 30% of the company is going to be sold back into the market over a period of time. And that's kind of holding the share price down. So there might be an opportunity here to get back into SMR, perhaps when that Fluor sale, as it makes its progress and we start to, wear the impact on the stock price. So it's on my radar again.
Now, Badge, okay, follow up. And I know you're not, I know there's more work to do with researching this, but I always thought one of the bear cases against investing in this sector, which Monkey dabbled in very gently with Lightbridge and ASPI and nuclear fuels, is that kind of like the quantum world, it's still a long ways away, roughly speaking, before commercialization and revenue. And so what the market is pricing now is the immense potential, but then you have all this dilution as you're talking about. Why, to me, that's a sensible reason to stay out. Why, what's your counter to that? Why might that not matter as much anymore? Is the progress being expedited enough, you think?
It's interesting. I don't know. I need to go and do like properly refresh my DD, but the world is different to when I first recommended this back in 2022 and bought it myself, because like the pressing need for energy is now, it's like on the top table in the US. And, clearly you have to have tight, strong regulations around stuff like nuclear power, like fusion reactors. Sorry, no, not fusion reactors, that's the future. Fission reactors. Because they, like older fission reactor designs, we have had like massive disasters like Chernobyl, Fukushima, all sorts of things. So modern fission reactors are safe, modern reactor designs, but you still got to have like you've got to have some governance and oversight, like the NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Commission. But I imagine like the US government are going to be putting their finger on the scales quite hard now and saying, if we can unlock power faster, like get your head out of your ass and let's like move this stuff forwards, let's expedite it. So yeah, like macro is on their side much more than it was in 2022. So I think that's what's different. But your question stands, like it's still like it's a long way out. Even if they had all the support in the world, it's probably like the early 2030s before they're actually like, generating electrons and making money. So that's a long time.
Yeah, and just as one point of comparison, my second largest position, ASTS, is also pre-revenue, but at least the date there is 26
Yeah,
into commercialization or early 27. That's, the market as always being forward-looking by around a year and a half, you're already within striking distance. Whereas if we're talking about, 2030, 4 years, 3 years, that's a little, that's a little bit of the hope, a little heavy on the hope and light on the execution. And that's why I would tread carefully in terms of like establishing a big position in something like this.
oh, totally. This would never be a big position for me, but I think it possibly has a role back in the portfolio. Can I tell you just before we close this topic, let me tell you about a company I have bought in this space. So nuclear power, but totally the other end of the market. So I was looking at Constellation Energy for a little while. And then while I was doing my research there, I ran into Brookfield. And Brookfield is like a holding company with like an asset management arm and like a management arm. And they've got part of the company, Brookfield Renewable, which is ticker BEPC. And that's the bit of the company that actually kind of builds and operates old style, like the traditional legacy style, massive nuclear fission reactors. A couple of interesting things put this one on my radar. So evidently they did a big deal with Microsoft about over a year ago to deploy over 10 gigawatts to Microsoft from one of the big old, legacy style nuclear power reactors. And then they also own 51% of Westinghouse. And so Westinghouse have like a ton of experience in building and operating reactors. They're like a very old company. And so, but that ownership stake of Westinghouse puts them as being like the main beneficiary of the US government's recent framework to triple nuclear capacity by 2050. So they're in a prime spot, and you could almost characterize these guys as being like, kind of like the incumbent nuclear power versus, I suppose, like the paper reactor companies like NuScale. Like they're embedded, they've got the technology, they've got the know-how, they've got the track record. So I picked up a stake in BEPC. And not just for all of that, like it fits my desire to have more income investments in my portfolio, because BEPC pays like nearly a 4% dividend yield. So that's pretty handy.
Ooh, this is good, Badge. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. So if I heard you correctly, our investors should roll up their sleeves and look into BEPC, Brookfield Renewable Corporation, correct? And I wouldn't mind, to all our beasties listening, if anybody out there with enough chutzpah, dig into this, maybe make us a slide deck. Tell us what it is that Badger sees in this company. Let's get some of our community know-how, especially to any of the engineers and people who know the space deeply. Tell us what you see.
We did a first pilot session of your options course, and I won't name any names, but we had a really interesting collection of Patreons join us for that. And one of our Patreons is a fusion engineer working on fusion reactors. So super interesting, and looking forward to hearing more from him in the future.
That's right. You know who you are. I guess we don't need to call you out by name, but if you're listening, get us some good due diligence on some of these new Badger candidates, please. And thank you. Awesome, Badge. Well, it's the start of the year still. We're recording on January 18th, but we never got around to talking about resolutions. Even though we did our predictions, but not so much our resolutions. And I don't know, I think it's good mental hygiene. It's good to kind of take a look at yourself and see what you thought you would do in the past year, what you want to do better this year. So you want to take a little bit of you want to assess ourselves a little bit. What is it we wanted to do last year? How did that go, and what are our goals for this year? That's the topic on hand.
And we made 3 resolutions each last year. So we're going to recap those. And I guess I've got one new one for this year. I haven't thought too deeply about this topic.
All right. Well, For me, I swore that I would not sell EOS, and I failed, but it was only because I kind of had to. I think it started getting over 50% of my portfolio in the King of the Jungle, and at some point it just becomes wildly irresponsible. So I trimmed in stages. I think some of those cells, I mean, all of those cells technically were mistakes from the pure price kept going up standpoint, but from the portfolio management standpoint, they were not mistakes. And so, monkey's paws and tail was pinned. Like, I mean, I could not sell, but it's still like 40% of my portfolio with all the tailwinds. And so I'm looking forward to some serious gains throughout 26. I'm going to try real hard not to sell anymore. Though, side note, I own 2 call options, both July and January 27th. Both of them are now in the money. And so if I'm going to sell something, it's probably going to be the July call once it flourishes and to free up some bananas that way.
Don't forget to tell me when I should sell the option that you made me buy when I lost the bet a few months ago.
Well, what's the date on that?
27 something, not sure.
Oh, good. Oh, so you're Monkey's gonna continue making you rich. Good. That's what I'm here for. How about you, Badge?
My first resolution was I was going to put aside a chunk of my cash allocation that I know I'm never going to reinvest and just segregate it out from my portfolio tracking. And I haven't done that because I don't know, it's a bit boring. It just feels a bit like cheating maybe. Like if I'm on 23% cash right now, that's pretty hedged. And that's just honestly how I'm running the portfolio. So I know this is going to drag down my CAGR, that I'm very proud of, 22-year CAGR. Kind of so be it, I suppose. This is the nature of becoming an older, wiser, more risk conservative investor, that you have a bit more cash on the sidelines.
So not really a fail?
No, I think I decided that was a bad resolution. A bit like your do not sell EOS. That's a bad resolution. And, I think you're correct to have disregarded that one.
Very good. Badge number 2 on Monkey's resolutions last year was to have fewer tabs open on his Google Chrome machine. I failed. And at the beginning of this year, I closed a lot and I grouped them into folders. So technically fewer are open visually, but when I open the folder, I'm 20 more. And I'm sad to report to you that I am miserably failing again this year. My tabs are completely out of control. And this actually speaks to my overwhelming resolution for this year. I have one job, Badge, to slow down and basically do fewer things, but the things I do, just do it more deeply, deliberately, not like a orangutan. And I'm failing.
Okay, well.
And I'm failing.
No harm in having a bit of monkey about you.
You see, but I have a culprit. Can I tell you why I'm failing? Okay. It's not because of my character. My character is impeccable. I'm failing because the AI, whatever it is making me feel like anything and everything is possible right now. So I'm getting out of bed. I'm rolling out of bed, okay, I can study Italian and I've prepped my classes for university. And now I'm going to, work on my options course. And then we're going to do some philosophy and we're going to record the podcast. And the AI is banging things out here. And it's like, my God, it's like anything is possible. But the temptation to really just protect the boundaries and the attention, it's not an easy, the temptation is strong with this one. The force is strong with this one, Badge.
Well, you've introduced me to like another level of using AI. I thought I was a bit of a master, like playing with things like Gemini and Grok and like doing like deep research. But actually you've now started vibe coding stuff with like Claude Code and anti-gravity, and your option, that app you've built for your options course is actually incredibly impressive. Like it's a proper learning base with simulators. Like there's a really valuable tool there. I think a lot of people will get benefit from. And I've only seen like session 1 of 4 sessions. We're doing part 2 of the pilot run today. So I'm looking forward to like getting my hands on the tool and playing with it myself when you release it.
I'm serious about this resolution, actually. I think this is not just a cutesy thing we're rambling on about. And I say this from my Zen background. I think all investors will become better versions of themselves if whatever they do, whichever style they pick, they're not doing it manically. And so this real need in 2026 to somehow fight the forces of everything, everywhere, all at once, the people probably that build the best things or succeed the most in their stock picking will be the ones that could, like you, to your great credit, say, this is my process, this is what I'm doing, and I'm not going to get overwhelmed to whatever extent that's possible. And so, yeah, this is serious. You know, I don't know, to our YouTube watchers, you could see Monkey put on a special hat for this episode. It's you could see I have a little slothy, and the goal is to not have goals, which is a very Zen idea. Let's make 2026 the year Monkey does less.
Well, I got a resolution that's not a million miles away from that one, because I said last year I would say no even more and declutter the admin and minutiae from my life. And I did a pretty good job of that, much to my wife's chagrin, because there's like a bunch of stuff I would do around the house that I no longer do. I'm carrying this one forward. I think there's more I can do. And I think now you've opened my eyes with like the power of anti-gravity as like a development platform, like an agent management platform. I'm going to start building a whole bunch of stuff that will optimize my life and like do stuff. And I was thinking maybe we should get like a virtual PA, like a support for the podcast. At some point we'll be able to afford that. But now we don't need that. We just need to like train agents to be able to help us run the show. So yeah, I'm on that now. Thank you for opening my eyes to it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant. This is a little plug also for my latest sizable position, UiPath. This is what that company's helping big enterprises do is basically integrate all of the moving pieces into one layer. And I think it's a fascinating direction that all the AI agents, it's not about which one will win. It's how can you coordinate your own life to help them work together? And we're at the very beginning of this. My third resolution badge last year was more jiu-jitsu, less running. Sadly, I got pretty badly injured in jiu-jitsu, and so I ended up falling back on the running. But I have bad news for you. My own AI assistant called me an idiot just the other day because instead of being reasonable and saying I'm now getting old, I gotta slow down. I'm now weight training and running and taking jiu-jitsu classes at night. And my body is barely hanging on. Like, you might not see it, but there's duct tape underneath these layers. So I don't know. My resolution this year was like to do less, go deeper, maybe really focus on the jiu-jitsu. And no, instead I added daily double sessions like a fool. So
let me tell you about one of my resolutions, because my third resolution sort of links into that. So there's a strange link here. So my last resolution last year was to do more venture capital, and so I made investments in the last year in Mosa Meat, who are like lab grown meat, and Woo, who is like the activity tracker. And my Whoop on my wrist is telling me I need to do more strength training because I mostly just do like cardio. I mostly just run. So now I did a project in lockdown, or like a challenge in lockdown, where I tried to build up to doing like 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 sit-ups, 1,000 squats as like one session. So I did that in 2020, and it's pretty hard, but it was good. But it was interesting to do that. So I'm now back doing that again because my Whoop is telling me I need to do more strength work. So I'm up to like 100 of each every morning. And I need to like gradually ramp that till I can do like the 1,000. So that's my plan for the next couple of months.
Very good, Badge. I'm so happy to hear that. You don't know this, but in my graduate school days, I at one point became a certified strength trainer assistant person. Had to take a bunch of stupid tests, and people in their 40s, 50s, especially 60s, those who really begin strength training avoid the really poor health span issues of their later decades. It's so crucial. And it's not when you're 20 and 30, you're getting beach bod stuff. It's not about that. But when you strengthen your calves and your arms and shoulders and stuff, you'll fall less and your hips won't break and all of this stuff that happens later. So glad you're getting back on that.
So you got any resolutions for the year to come?
Yeah, I pretty much already talked about it. Slow down, and I'm failing.
You got any investing related resolutions?
I want to find the sweet spot for our investors to kind of see that once you have a portfolio that's larger, like ours have now become, you gain more, pardon the pun, more options with what to do with a larger portfolio, which includes learning how to use options and to do it skillfully and out of principle. And so my resolution is to share those insights with our Patreons and YouTube channel watchers.
And with me, I'm happily a guinea pig on your options course. So it's good stuff.
And one more, and to practice more gratitude.
Okay, very good. Yeah.
If you practice gratitude, you complain less. And if you complain less, things just are better.
Nice. That's a good one. I've got a boring one, but I think it's going to be quite important this year. I need to get serious about understanding income stocks. So I've currently only got like 3% of my investments in like dividend paying companies. That's incredibly low. And so I want to double that by the end of this year and maybe triple it to 10% so the large majority of my wealth is in ISAs. It's like an individual savings account, it's like a Roth tax efficient account in the UK. The UK government are making noises about taxing interest on cash in ISAs. And as I said earlier, I've got like over 20% cash allocation. So that's quite a lot of income rolling in every month that's currently like tax free, potentially will get taxed. Because the UK government's got like a goal of making people investors, and then like if they have money in this ISAs, but they've just got it in cash, well, they're not really investing. So yeah, goal of doubling my income to 6% allocation, but maybe tripling it to 10%.
Wow. So what I heard you say is that your resolution for 2026 is to finally reach the age of reason and sell all your Greggs sausages.
No, the opposite. Greggs is an income stock, so I need to double or triple. Yeah.
I'm just squeezing your shoes. Maybe that's my real resolution. Get Badger to sell his greasy, shadowy sausage company.
I got to give you something to snipe at. Anyway, it'd be more like nuclear investments than sausage rolls, but basically stuff that pays me like a bit of income. Yeah, that's the plan.
All right. Well, I hope all our patrons are having a great start to their 2026. We want to hear your resolutions, investing or otherwise. So hit us up on wallstreetwildlife.com. Join the kick-ass community we've built. Are you ready to become a beast of an investor?
Whoa. I thought we weren't using that as a tagline. I thought you were going to come up with a new closeout line for me.
Okay. So let's go to what we settled on last year. Don't die.
Don't die. be grateful and don't die. Hey, look, can I just share before we close, one thing that we are both grateful for is our partnership with the incredible fiscal.ai, the essential stock research platform. We use it every day. We used it to prepare today's pod. That SMR was like a graphic from fiscal.ai. If you go to fiscal.ai/wildlife, you'll get free a Fiscal Pro and a 15% discount if you upgrade. That's fiscal.ai/wildlife. Go on then, don't die, and are you ready to become a beast of an investor?
Your journey starts somewhere.
Somewhere, probably here.
A reminder that the people on this program may hold positions in the companies that are mentioned. Buying and selling stock carries financial risk, which could include loss of capital. The views in this program should not be taken as personalized advice. Before acting on any of the information provided, listeners are encouraged to consult a financial or tax professional.